My predecessor, Monsignor Henry Gratz, really did a lot for the parish and built the church. And it was designed so that a visual focal point would be the Reredos with a banner on it. So from its earliest days as a church building, it was designed by an architect firm in Minnesota. It was just planned that there would be attractive, inspiring, colorful banners that complemented the color of the season or the celebration.
And out of that tradition, the first banner, there was a hole in the liturgical seasons where there wasn't a specific banner, and that was Pentecost, and that was the first banner that I worked on. We also started that with discussions about theology and liturgy specifically. My feeling is that the banners are the environment and also the welcoming, so that when people come in and they're settling in, they can get an idea of the liturgy in which they're about to participate, and it sets the tone. And on that banner, the red comes down the banner and ends up right over the presider's chair, where the priest, the celebrant, is vested in red. Some of the original banners, beautiful imagery, but didn't necessarily have that much connection.
There were 70s, you all have seen them if you have any age on you at all, felt or glued on cut and paste banners, which were really in the 70s, but they dated kind of quickly.
So each time that I was commissioned for a banner, it started with long discussions about what the specific liturgy means, what the liturgical action is, how does this support the liturgical action, and I would listen. That's how I start every project, by listening. Monsignor had some very acute ideas.
Always.
But didn't necessarily have the
artistic ability to express them. Yeah.
So it was a collaboration, and the longer we worked together, I think the easier and more that process flowed.
I have mental concepts of what I'd like to see, and I don't have any artistic ability at all, so I can't even sketch out what I'm talking about. Dale was able not only to read my mind, but to comprehend my visions. And without, well, maybe there was one exception, without many exceptions, he nailed exactly what I was trying to express. And this was done through the communication of word, which made us very comfortable in working together.
I always felt comfortable. And because you allowed me to sometimes not contradict, but interject some other ideas.
Told me to sit and stay.
When I painted that, the first banners, I would take this 10 by 15 foot canvas and put it on the driveway. And in my house, I would run up to the second floor so I could look out the window and get enough distance so that I could judge the scale and color and intensity. And now, with the technology, I can work on a painting very small, I mean, fairly large, but as a painting, and then it can be taken to a company that will digitize the image with a 4-part vector scan that's almost too big for my ancient computer, but they can then reproduce that image at any size, and they can dye sublimate it, which means it's heat pressed into the fabric and makes it as archival as the original painted ones that I was doing before. But the fabric is so much less weighty. It's easier to move, it's easier to store, and it's a significant improvement. So some of the new technology I wholeheartedly embrace.
Don't believe that old adage, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. And look at how much easier it made your life.
My overall concept for the liturgical year is there are some liturgies that are seasons, like Lent, that goes on for several weeks. And there are some liturgies that are single celebrations, like Pentecost, for instance. And the nature of the presentation of the imagery is different. With a single liturgy, you need to have a more direct, more graphic, simpler, kind of almost even confrontational sort of an approach. Whereas with a season, it has to be an image that can work well with different readings on the different Sundays. And so a seasonal image will have much more content.
This is a good point to point out the unity of the Church of Christ. Dale was not born into a liturgically expressive faith community, and to this day is not Catholic, although he thinks like one. He studied, he plowed into not only the history of liturgy, but the experience that he has gone through in liturgy, and took to it like a duck to water. And so when we talked theology, or when we talked visual expressions of our faith, there was never an obstacle to, I believe this, I believe this. It flowed from the universal experience of Christ and from the personal experience of sitting through liturgical practices which weren't native to him. He's an amazing theologian as well as a great artist.
Well, as an undergraduate, I never got that idea of changing your major, so I just added a second major. So I majored in both art and religion and philosophy. And my business and how I've proceeded as an artist has always encompassed my faith as well.
You know, in your work with banners, there are those that are strikingly beautiful visually, and there are those that are strikingly beautiful theologically. And one new concept you and I worked on is probably not my favorite visual depiction, but it is so striking in its message. We wanted to celebrate Christ the King, and we wanted to emphasize that royalty came from the incarnation, his suffering, his passion, and his death. And so we wanted to combine the crown of thorns that we put on his head with the victorious crown that his Father put on his head. And so from that crown of thorns, light radiates from the thorns, forming a victorious golden light-filled crown. And while I don't know why it's not one of my visually favorite, I guess because it's so striking maybe. And there was no other way to depict it.
Some of that goes back to, Christ said, my kingdom is not of this world. And yet, most of the depictions of Christ the King show him wearing 14th century European monarchical crown, and that transition to the crown of light is not a usual depiction. But maybe because I'm slightly outside, I have that latitude to make those sorts of unusual depictions. My favorite banner is the one we put up at Easter, the empty tomb. The vision is that it's a view from inside the tomb, where we are supposed to wake up and go up the stairs into the light of the resurrection following the Lord. Most depictions show the other things that were going on outside of the tomb. But for me, that one is so striking because the banners on the Reredos are huge. And the change in scale, I might work on an image, making a small painting that is then digitized and blown up. But here, it's 10 by 15 feet. And the first time I got to see the banner hung, it affected me, and I'm the one who painted the image.
We both love order, and we were talking about a banner for the ordinal Sundays of the year. That means no feast celebrations. We're just, every Sunday is an Easter. And we wanted to express the calm purpose of life that Christianity brings. And so this was one that came out of a conversation. Let's have the power of water and the stillness of water, symbolizing that water is where life came from. And it is both active and agitated, and we also have to have that calm peacefulness. The sun rising or setting, I'm not sure which, with the beautiful trees in the background, I believe speaks peace. That is one of my favorite banners.
So this banner, which is called the Hope Banner, the light, and in almost all of my work, it's always the light is the important thing. The light streaming into the space from the cupola, the light in the Transfiguration window, the differences in light. In this, the sun shining across the top and then shining down on the water forms a tau cross. And it says, yes, there's turbulence, there's rocks and rough water and hard times. And life will have hard times. But through that, beyond that, there's the calmness, there's the hope, and
the peace.
The peace, yeah.
Yeah. Another one of my favorite banners, and two of them, because of their simplicity, and I won't spend a lot of time on them, but one of them is the laborer in the field from the gospel. The harvest is great and the laborer is few. I love that banner. And the other one is the Lenten banner, where you see the wall of rocks in the desert, and there's no image of Christ. Instead, you see the shadow of the shepherd walking by with his staff. And that's always been one that evoked such hope in the resurrection.
And that it is Christ who is leading us through Lent. It's a Lenten journey. It's our Lenten journey. And in that banner, you see in the distance the sunrise, the promise of the resurrection, the direction we're going.
I will make you fishers of people. We went to celebrate an anniversary of the parish, and the Lord's words came to your mind, and to depict church, you made that beautiful banner.
And if you notice in that banner that the fish are gathering and moving towards the light, but there's always room for more. There's always that lost fish. There's always other people who need to hear the good news.